the truth you keep avoiding. There comes a point when the heart knows, long before the mind is ready to admit it. This relationship is no longer good for you. It doesn't feel like love anymore. It doesn't bring you peace. It doesn't uplift, nourish, or support who you are becoming. Instead, it confuses you, exhausts you, dims you, and yet you stay. Not because you're weak, but because you're entangled, emotionally, mentally, energetically. You keep hoping that things will change, that this is just a rough phase, that the person you fell in love with will return. But this is the trap. The version you fell for may have never really existed. It was a projection, one you wanted to believe. And now you're stuck in a loop of nostalgia and pain. The longer you delay facing this truth, the deeper the damage seeps into your soul. A toxic relationship doesn't start with violence. It starts with denial. And every time you lie to yourself to avoid the pain of walking away, you let the poison continue its quiet work. One of the greatest illusions that keeps you bound to toxicity is emotional loyalty. You feel responsible for their happiness, their healing, their peace. You convince yourself that they're not that bad, or that everyone has issues, or worse, that maybe you're the one with the problem. But this kind of thinking isn't compassion, it's emotional entrapment. It's what narcissists, manipulators, and emotionally unavailable people thrive on. They subtly convince you that you owe them your patience, your forgiveness, your sacrifice. They wear your empathy like a weapon. They twist your kindness into a leash. And slowly, you stop living for yourself. You become a caretaker, a fixer, a peacekeeper, anything but your authentic self. What you don't realize is that you are dying inside in the name of love. And love that demands the death of your spirit is not love. It is emotional enslavement. Toxic relationships don't usually explode. They erode. You don't notice the collapse all at once. It's slow, gradual, unseen. At first, you make small compromises. You don't speak up when something hurts. You tolerate disrespect once or twice. You apologize just to keep the peace. Then it becomes normal. Your boundaries blur. Your needs shrink. Your opinions get quieter. Eventually, you no longer recognize yourself. You're always walking on eggshells, monitoring your tone, second-guessing your feelings, trying not to set them off. You're emotionally exhausted, but you don't understand why. The truth is, the relationship has made you disappear. And the saddest part is, you've gotten used to your own absence. This is the cost of staying too long, the slow death of your authenticity. And if you don't choose distance now, you may forget how to choose yourself at all. You hold on because you still believe in potential, not reality. You remember the sweet moments, the early intimacy, the laughter. You hope that person is still in there somewhere, beneath the layers of control, coldness, and chaos. But hope, when misused, becomes a prison. You're not loving a person. You're loving a possibility. And possibility isn't proof. What you need to understand is this. Someone's potential doesn't entitle them to your presence. You don't exist to be their emotional rehab. You're not a project manager for their personal growth. If they are hurting you now, if they are choosing ego over empathy now, if they are gaslighting, demeaning, or neglecting you now, that is who they are, regardless of who they could be. You deserve to be loved by someone who doesn't require you to abandon yourself in the process. Creating distance doesn't mean you hate them. It means you finally love yourself enough to stop allowing their behavior to damage your well-being. It means you've seen the cycle repeat one too many times. It means you're tired of crying over the same fights, feeling lonely in their presence, and being blamed for your own pain. The choice to step away is not selfish. It is sacred. You are reclaiming your time, your energy, your clarity, and it will hurt. You will doubt yourself, They will make you feel guilty. Others might not understand, but deep down, you will know. This is what freedom feels like in its rawest, messiest form. Choosing yourself is not glamorous. It is not easy. But it is the only way to heal what has been silently bleeding for far too long. Distance is not created by words. It is built by action. You must stop responding to bait. Stop participating in emotional games. Stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You may need to cut communication, block numbers, mute social media, change your routines, and most importantly, detach internally. You have to stop waiting for their apology, their change, their realization. Let go of the idea that closure will come from them. It won't. Closure isn't something they give you. It's something you give yourself the day you decide that your peace is more important than their presence. Distance doesn't mean you're cold. It means you're done bleeding for people who only ever brought you pain. Once you create distance, expect withdrawal. Emotional addiction is real. Your body and mind have been conditioned to seek the highs and survive the lows. You've been on a roller coaster of attention, affection, rejection, and confusion. Leaving that cycle will feel like detoxing from a drug. You'll crave their attention even if it was harmful. You'll miss the chaos because it was familiar. You'll second guess your decision in the silence that follows. But silence is sacred. Let it teach you. Sit with it. Let the pain rise. Let it scream. Let it cry. Because buried beneath that pain is your power, waiting to be remembered. Your nervous system needs time to recalibrate. Your heart needs time to relearn safety. Be patient. Don't return just because the pain is loud. Stay. Heal. Rise. And then, almost without notice, something begins to shift. Not loudly, not dramatically, but subtly, like the first soft breath of spring after a long, brutal winter. The pain doesn't vanish, but it stops defining you. The memories still echo, but they no longer command your attention like tyrants. And you begin to sense something strange. A peace that isn't dependent on anyone else's validation, presence, or approval. It isn't a peace that came from being rescued, or heard, or finally understood by the one who broke you. Number. It came from the day you chose to stop waiting. It came from the moment you realized that saving yourself wasn't selfish. It was necessary. Life doesn't wait for apologies. Healing doesn't wait for justice. And so you walked away. Not because you stopped loving them, but because you started loving yourself. Your breath changes. It deepens. Your thoughts clear, no longer clouded by constant second-guessing or the endless loop of self-blame. You begin to laugh again, but this time it is different. It is not the laughter used to smooth over awkward silences, or to keep the peace. It is a laugh born from lightness, from space within the soul, where heaviness used to live. You feel your body relaxing in its own presence, unguarded, no longer alert to subtle manipulations or invisible landmines. It feels like stepping into your own skin again, after living like a ghost in someone else's story. You remember who you were before you became an emotional hostage, before your silence was used as currency, before your boundaries were treated like inconveniences. And that remembrance doesn't just come as nostalgia. It comes as resurrection. And slowly, the rebuilding begins. Not with grand plans, but with small, sacred acts. Making tea in silence and enjoying it. Sleeping deeply without fear. Speaking your truth in small, steady doses. You become selective with your energy. Where it goes, who gets it, and why. You start choosing joy over obligation, clarity over chaos, stillness over performative connection. You no longer feel the urge to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. The toxic fog that once surrounded your mind begins to thin, and with each sunrise, you see the world not as a battlefield, but as a garden waiting to be tended. You understand, perhaps for the first time, that peace isn't something you chase. It's what arises when you stop betraying yourself for belonging. The wounds you once thought would never close begin to scab, not because time magically heals all, but because you stopped picking them open with contact, with hope, with fantasy. The voices in your head that once echoed their criticisms begin to fade. You replace them with your own, gentle, grounded, present. You begin to speak to yourself as you once wished they would speak to you. You become your own sanctuary, your own soft place to land. And in this sanctuary, self-respect returns, not as an achievement, but as a birthright. It does not announce itself with trumpets. It simply walks back into your life like a long-lost friend, familiar, warm, undeniable. And with its return comes a sense of dignity that doesn't need to be proven, defended, or explained. One day, and you may not even realize it at first, you look back, not with bitterness, not with anger, not even with sadness, just clarity, sharp, unwavering clarity. You no longer wish things had turned out differently, because you now see the deeper truth. That pain was your initiation, your fire, your awakening. The distance you created wasn't the end of a relationship. It was the beginning of a new relationship with yourself. You didn't walk away from someone. You walked back to someone, you. And what felt like destruction was, in fact, a sacred dismantling of everything false that had latched onto your identity. Now, in the space where their voice used to echo, there is silence. Not the silence of suppression, but the silence of stillness. Peaceful, powerful, undisturbed. The silence of a soul that no longer needs noise to feel alive. In that silence, you discover your own rhythm, your own frequency, the sound of your own breathing, the truth of your own being, no longer addicted to chaos, no longer dependent on approval, no longer afraid of solitude. That silence becomes a sacred space, one no one else can enter unless they meet you in your wholeness. This is not the ending most people imagine. There are no perfect closures, no cinematic apologies, no redemptive returns. Just a quiet, beautiful truth. You survived. You woke up. You returned. And the person you became on the other side of this, wiser, softer, stronger, more awake, that person was always inside you, waiting, watching, whispering. And now, finally, they are free. And from that freedom, a new life begins. Not loud, not flashy, but real. A life not chosen for someone else, but a life deeply, unapologetically chosen for you.